Welcome back to another episode of The Single Season. Here we discuss the sometimes treacherous waters of navigating dating because it ain't as easy as it used to be. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Carla. And she's struggling a little bit around communication and communication styles and trying to figure out when is it the right time to hold on, potentially get professional help, and when is it the time to let go and find someone who is easily a better match. So, Carla, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Allison. I'm always excited to kind of get other people's opinions and feedback on relationships because, like you said, they're treacherous waters.
They can be.
They can be treacherous waters.
Yeah.
But I'm single. Have been single for about 4 years now. Hope I did that math right. Originally from Chicago, I'm living in Atlanta now. I am in real estate. If you guys want to. Give me a call. I'm a Coldwell Banker.
We're absolutely going to allow you to give that information later on.
Yes, and I have a podcast as well. So some of you guys may know Support the Dope Radio. If you haven't, I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
But yeah, I am. What else do you want to know? Age? I'm 41. Mm-hmm. Never married. No children. Just out here, kind of trying to jump back into dating a little bit because I've kind of been out of the game as far as an actual. Relationship goes. I know there's situationships, but the relationship part, it's been a few years. So
no situationships, Carla.
Yeah, no situation, no more. That's it.
Okay, good. So before we get into the crux of what you want to discuss, I need to know a little bit more about what you're looking for in a relationship. Now, before you answer this question, I don't want you to give me the laundry list of what the guy has to have. When I ask what are you looking for in a relationship, I mean what fruit do you want it to bear? What will the two of you together create?
Together, I want us to be able to create a safe space for us to be who we are in the current state and also encourage us into growing into what it is we're ultimately going to become, as opposed to us feeling like we have to maintain some sort of, false identity to make the other happy or to fear growing because we might outgrow the relationship, which happens at times. But just to be safe to be who I am without feeling like I have to constantly cater to who they want me to be. I feel that you have the power to encourage and to help inspire and to even help be like a resource to each other if you allow that to happen. So no competition, no judgment, just best of the best friends and, cheering each other on.
I love that. I love that. And I have to tell you, that was a little bit of a trick question, even though I gave you the caveat. Okay. Because people tend to go to the, we will, and then he needs to, and he needs to, and he needs to, and he needs to, and she needs to, and she needs to as well. Like, no one is innocent in that. But I'm so glad that you were able to understand and recognize that we're supposed to be serving each other. It's supposed to be reciprocal. Okay. So I know your specific question was around communication style. So how would you describe your communication style?
Very direct. Very direct. If I have a question, I ask. If I feel like you don't understand, I explain and explain and explain until I feel like you understand it, which might be a lot for some people, and I get that. But over time, I've learned that communication is so important to me that it can be a deal breaker if it's not working. And I say that because I haven't always been the communicator that I am now. I used to be the person bottled up everything. Something upset me or hurt my feelings, and then when that one straw breaks the camel's back, then I blow up. Another person's looking at you, not for the culmination of things, but they're thinking you blew up over this one little thing. You end up looking, crazy or off the wall. So I learned how to have to address things in the moment or, as soon as possible, as soon as I'm done processing. But I feel like so many friendships, even in addition to romantic relationships, end because someone didn't communicate something or someone didn't, communicate something as they should or make sure that there was an understanding or there's some kind of miscommunication. So I feel like so many things can be saved or at least become more palpable if they are willing to communicate.
Understood. So let's get to the crux of why you're here. Your question was, if you and a potential mate are on different pages in terms of communication style, how do you know when to keep working at it versus when to call it quits? So can you give us some context behind this question? What's going on with you and Bae?
I'm not going to name anybody in specific. I'm not even going to say there's one person because y'all don't need to know all that. What you need to know is that most of my issues as of late when it comes to dating falls with the category of communication. And most recently, there's someone who I feel that they, in the very beginning, said, I don't use a whole lot of words. I like to let people know how I feel about them with my actions, that type of thing, which is important because a lot of people don't. They're all talk and there's no action.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, great. That's perfect. But the more I got into it, the more I realized, okay, well, you don't really have too many words at all. So I get the action part and that's great, but what about the communication? So I feel like I'm constantly trying to pull things out. I'm kind of trying to walk on glass, trying to, make sure I'm not offending or overstepping, but still with needing to know, what's kind of going on, because I know for myself, one of my flaws is that I'm an overthinker. And if you're not giving me the narrative or telling me what you're thinking or feeling, I'm going to make something up. Now, whether it's right or wrong, will be determined, but I'd rather be right, I'd rather know, I don't want to have to guess and make up stories because it could end up being to our detriment, so I prefer that you're just upfront and honest and clear and kind of what's going on. So I feel that, a lot of people say, well, be patient. He's a man. You know how men are. Men don't have many words as we do, or, men don't just communicate like we do. Give them time, be patient.
Which is true. They're not as expressive. They don't tend to be as expressive. That's true.
Right. So I'm kind of caught between, okay, well, be patient for how long, or what are the signs that are saying, okay, maybe it's time to let it go, because, all other things considered, they're a great person. I feel like we match in so many other ways, but that's the part that's like the biggest thing that's lacking, and it's actually a very frustrating point for me because communication is so important for me.
Okay, so do you have your non-negotiables, the behaviors and traits that a partner must have in order for you to continue to see them? Do you have a list? As they say?
I feel like I know. I don't think I've written out a list or, spoken a list, but I do know things as they happen where I'm like, well, no, I can't. That doesn't work for me. And I'm actually kind of vocal about it. So I think I have a pretty good idea what my non-negotiables are. Just nothing formal, like a formal list.
Are you able to share them?
Yeah, some of the things that are non-negotiables for me are someone who's a non-believer. That's very important. Non-negotiable is not when there's a disagreement, I don't do the whole yelling back and forth. I'd rather you dismiss yourself or me and we come back later and reconvene. But the whole screaming and yelling or even belittling, that's not going to go for me. Someone who feels like they're so busy. There are a lot of people saying, well, I'm just so busy. I couldn't text you back. I was so busy. I couldn't call you back until tomorrow because I'm so busy. No one's that busy where they should be able to go hours and hours or even, days without responding to you because you make time for what you want to make time for.
Right, Carla, I'm gonna cut you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to challenge you to change the next set of non-negotiables that you have and position them in a positive way. And I'm gonna flip the first three.
Okay.
So someone, I remember number two and number
believer.
three. Yes. So a believer, so that's already positive, right?
Yeah.
Then number two is someone who effectively communicates.
Yes.
And then we're gonna go through how we define effective communication. And then number three is gonna be someone who has time.
Makes time.
Right, and makes time and desires to spend that time with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that I've cut you in the middle, we need to reframe the rest. Keep going.
I think those are like my biggest non-negotiables. I don't think I have.
You said nothing about money. You said nothing about looks.
Okay, well let's go there. Money is important. I mean, I don't want to make it seem like it's the end all be all because I feel like we all start from somewhere. But I do feel like they should be responsible with money. I do feel like they should have some goals in regards to their money, and I think that they should be smart when it comes to how they spend and invest the money. So that's important. So they don't have to be rich, but can you take care of the essentials? Can you, you're not necessarily at every end of every pay period or something, you're struggling, responsible with money, smart with money. Looks are important because that's what you see first, so they do. And I think I skip that part so often because I don't think that or most of us, I don't think that when someone doesn't appear physically attracted to us, we don't really pursue that too much.
Yeah.
Unless we happen to get to know them through some other means, and then the physical comes because now their personality draws us in or something like that. But
we can't assume.
Yeah.
We can never assume.
Right.
Because there are plenty of people who really do not care.
Yes.
Right. And some other things are more important to them. Namely, it's money. But some other things outvalue and outrank looks. So that's why people are like, well, isn't that a given? No. For some people, it's not.
Yeah.
And so that's why we want to make sure, okay, so you have a solid 5.
Yeah.
And can I tell you that number 2, after being a believer, you talked about communication.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so seeing that that's a non-negotiable for you, I'm now going to turn this question back to you. When you say, if you and a potential mate are on a different page in terms of communication, how do you know when to keep working or when to call it quits? You've established that communication style, quality communication is key. It's a non-negotiable to you. Right. So then now, number 1, you know you can't ignore it. So now we have been able to establish that Carla cannot ignore if the communication is on point, because out of all of the things you could have asked for and all of the things that women tend to ask for with their laundry list, you chose 5, and number 2 of the 5 was communication. So that means that's not something that you can ignore. Right. Okay, so good. Now we're clear on that. From there, if you feel like your potential partner has the other 4, that's the thing that's outstanding. We have to look at what they call the 80-20 rule. Right? Have you heard of the 80-20? Yes. Okay, so I learned that from Tyler Perry. Why did I get married?
Most of us, right?
So we're looking literally, that's literally 80-20, 20, 40, 60, 80. And then that 20%. Right. So then what I would say is that this is something that you should continue to pursue and work on. Now, we looked at those same 5 non-negotiables that you listed, and communication style is sucking right now, so we're down to the 80. That means these other 4 have to be legit. If he's shaky or questionable on any of the other 4, then we're no longer at 80-20. Now we're at 70-30. Right. Now we're at 60-40. Now we're at 50-50, and that's problematic. Yeah. So again, the success of dating is all about discerning whether or not the person that you're looking for has what you desire and require. We could talk a long laundry list about, do you have those things? Right. But at the root of it all, for the purpose of this conversation, there are 5 things that you require. This gentleman is missing 1. That means the other 4, if they are outstanding, clear as day, he's proven those things, then I would advise that you work on the number 5, that you work on it. Now, the question may be, how do you work on it? So you said potential bae, and then you also said you've been single for 4 years. So is this your man or not? Not your man. Not. Okay. Yeah. So besides this communication issue, what's holding him or you back from making that your man?
It's definitely me. And only because it's so new and because I am just kind of getting back into dating. I didn't want to rush into anything too soon. My history is that I jumped from one relationship to another. So I never spent any time just dating multiple people, and exploring, my options and who else is out there who I might be interested in. It's as soon as I find a guy that I like, he likes me too, boom, we're in a long-term relationship. But then sometimes you look up, months down the road or years down the road even, and now you're starting from scratch because things didn't work out. Yeah. And, like I said, I'm at a point in my life where I feel like I don't have too many more moments to start over from scratch. So let's kind of take our time. Why do you say that? I just say because of age. I'm not 20 anymore. I'm not 20. I'm not even 30 anymore. I've crossed the 40 threshold. And I'm not saying that's old or that's too old to find someone. I just know that the days that a lot of people had with experiencing dating multiple people, I didn't really have that. And so now I kind of want to be more conscientious about, is this someone I want to jump into a long-term relationship with?
You just said dump?
Was that I meant jump.
But
jump.
I want to know if that was
a
Freudian slip.
I hope not. I don't think so.
Okay.
I just think it was a slip of the tongue.
Okay, good. Okay.
It's new. We've only been dating for a few months. So I'm kind of getting to a place where I feel like I'm ready, but that's why we haven't, pretty much, because he kind of came along just as I was jumping back in and saying I'm going to start dating. He was kind of one of the first. So I was like, okay, whoa, hey, I didn't expect that to happen so soon. Yes. So I'm kind of like, ooh, slow down. So really it's me, but everything else, by all other accounts, I feel is pretty solid. Okay. But that's just like the most frustrating thing for me, because I don't want to, I guess I don't want to be so lenient on that I find myself in a relationship months down the road, then kind of going back to the beginning about how it does play into how I feel or how I, like to communicate in my relationships. And then he's just like, well, what are you talking about? As if I didn't talk about it, like months ago. I want it to be understood from the beginning.
Right. Understood. So tell me specifically what he's not conveying. Are like he mentioned the actions. Is he at least doing the actions?
He's at least doing the actions.
Okay.
For me, I think the most important thing is that when we're in the same space physically, I have all the attention. He communicates, fairly well, and everything's good. But when it's out of sight, it's like out of sight, out of mind. I don't hear from him often. When I do hear from him, it's kind of short. And he's a busy entrepreneur. I don't expect him to call or text me every hour of the day. But sometimes if I text you on a Tuesday morning, I don't think that I should be hearing from you Wednesday evening. That's a little bit much for me.
I agree.
And early on he'd say, my apologies, I'll do better. And he would seemingly, but as of late, it seems like it's not as much of a priority for him to do better in that, scenario as he did in the beginning.
Okay. So the two of you have had a conversation about the frequency is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
You've had a conversation. He said he'll do better. He does better. He falls off.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you potentially prepared to have that conversation every couple of months until it sinks in that I heard every couple of months? Because, and let me tell you why I'm asking this. If this gentleman is close to you in age, that means potentially he's been dating for the last 20 years, in and out of relationships, in and out of marriage, dating for 20 years. And if this has been his practice, to have one conversation I don't think is fair or a reasonable expectation that he would change.
Yeah, that's
right?
Fair.
How many times have we spoken to children and asked them to do something 1,000 times over? They don't get it till they're 18. They don't get it till they're 22, right? So we're talking about 10, 15, 20 years. So in consideration of that, knowing and understanding that you're expecting someone who is 40-ish to change a behavior that they have been putting in place probably since birth, and especially romantically for the last 20 years, are you prepared to have that conversation every couple of months?
Yeah. It's a conversation that's very apparent to me that I will have to have more than once, which is fair. Really, for how long am I willing to have it? I'm not really sure. I mean, I think that's what I'm trying to, come to terms with.
That's why I'm here, Alison.
Yes, right.
What you mean?
I'm talking to you. How long do I do that? I don't really know. I'm just really trying to kind of gauge, his interest and his commitment, and if this is something that he's going to want to hear me talk about every few months, because this is going to happen until there's a change, a noticeable change, I should say, because I don't want to make him, I think this is my biggest issue, I don't want to make it so uncomfortable for him. Like, I don't like to be nagged.
Yeah.
I don't want people to feel like I'm nagging.
Yes.
It's important to me to communicate, and it's important for me to have conversations, but I don't want to overstep that, where now you feel like, oh, here she's calling me again. Do I want to answer? Or, here she's in my door. This, there goes the rest of my piece for the evening. I don't want to be that. But I do want to be clear that I think that we could have something. I want to work on it. Are we both willing to put in that work for that? Or do we need to go our separate ways?
Is there anything that he's expressed to you that he would like to see you change?
Actually, no.
I mean, he's not that expressive, so
yeah, right.
So there could be a litany. Yeah. We don't have
right.
No clue.
Absolutely, because by no means am I perfect, and I don't think that he thinks I'm perfect either. But he really is just not that expressive, So he could have some things that he just hasn't brought to my attention yet. I don't know, but to my knowledge, as of today, he hasn't.
Okay, so my next steps for you would be to have the conversation again, right, and say, hey, the last time that we spoke, I shared with you that I'd like to communicate with you more frequently, like make it abundantly clear more frequently. What that means is, like, for instance, and I would have a solid piece of evidence, right? Like you could potentially pull up in a screenshot. That's a little aggressive, but like that's how solid and like proof, like foolproof it is. So it would be something like for instance, remember on Monday I texted you about you picking up your nephew from the airport and was that an easy pickup and did everything work out? And I didn't hear from you until day. And so remember we spoke about before that I would like to hear from you, and then give him a frequency, right? Because we have to be very explicit with people. Yeah. He thought that he did better because he probably did better 3 times.
Right.
And not understanding that this is something that would be an expectation of yours for as long as the two of you are seeing each other. And so, for instance, blah, 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 the airport pickup, whatever it is, and I didn't hear from you until, and it was a whole day later, which I would agree is outrageous. And so when I say that I want to hear from you more frequently, it looks like us texting more than once a day. It looks like you responding to me within the day. It looks like us talking on the phone every other day. Whatever that is, like you outline it for you of what you think is appropriate. Is that something that you think that you can do? Do you think that I'm asking too much of you with where you are in your life right now? Right? So we're repositioning it to, it's not me. Like I require and I need and you're not doing so this is what I would like, because you have to say this is what I would like and outline it very clearly. And then you're going to say, do you think that that's something that's within your bandwidth? Or do you think that with the business and how things are going, I know you're working on that project, whatever. Do you think that's just something that's a little bit out of your bandwidth right now? When you position questions like that and it gives people what they see as an easy out, they're more likely to give you an honest answer. Now, you can then take that answer and do whatever the hell you want with it. But all we want right now is to be able to elicit an honest response from him. So you're the same way that you're speaking to me in this very soft and sweet tone is going to be the same. Hey, babe. When we spoke back in February, I shared with you that I really do want to spend more time with you. And you're telling the truth. I enjoy when we converse. I enjoy that when we check in. And you did a really great job at first. Smile, right? And then, but however, things have shifted. For example, when I text you about such and such on this day, I didn't hear from you about such and such until the next day. It's really important to me that, I hear from you. If it's via text, this schedule, on the phone, this schedule, do you think that's something that you could do for the long haul, or do you think that's just a little bit too much for you right now? And if so, I understand. Yeah. When you position it like that versus the way that I would position it, like, yo, you ain't got no time for me, and right? You're going to more likely get an honest response. And if his response is, no, I can do it, I just got distracted, say, okay, well, you got distracted before. Are you okay with us having this conversation every couple of months when you get distracted again? Or do you think that we're just better off not having that level of communication? I did not say we're better off as friends. I did not say we're better off separated. You're not giving them that much information because, again, he's going to say, no, Carla, you're great. Right? So do you think that you'll be able to do it? Are you okay with me, reminding you every couple of months so we can stay on track? Or would you prefer that I didn't do that? Right? If he's going to say, I'm okay, then you have to give him that grace to say he's okay with it. So revisit in a couple of months. And it could take 3, 4, 5 conversations, which is now equaling to about 8, 9, 10 months. It could take that. But I think that he deserves the grace if he reiterates twice to you in what we just shared that he can do it and he's willing to do it. If he says, I would prefer not having the reminders, you already answered your question.
Right.
When to call it quits.
Yeah.
And then you can follow. And if the answer is desirable and he says, no, this is something that we can do, then it should be, okay, great. I'm so happy to hear that because I don't want to be a nag. I never want to be that to you. I want to be a support. This is something that's important to you. By the way, important to me. By the way, is there anything I do that get on your nerves? Come on, you could tell me. Because I do want to show up again, and this is you reassuring. I do want to show up for you in a good way. I want to be potentially a good girlfriend that may lead to a happy, healthy marriage. Smile, smile, smile. Drink your little wine as you're having the conversation. A little touch on the shoulder, a little touch on the leg, right? And so is there anything that I could do? And then he said, nothing. Well, think about it, and then we'll revisit this in a couple of days. Because sometimes it just may be that he needs some time to process.
Right.
My husband needs time to process. Okay. If he's hungry and he says, babe, what do you want to eat? I'll give him a quick answer because I know that he will not be able to give an answer. Right? So I'm Chinese. Yeah. Right? Just give an answer. Yeah. And then he's going to think on it. It's like, I'd rather Thai. Right? But if I just leave him to make a decision in the moment on the fly, it is not going to happen. At breakfast, I need to say, babe, what you want to eat for dinner? Right? Some people just need time to process. So, well, since you mentioned it, I didn't really feel comfortable in that moment, but since you mentioned it, the fact that you talk to your mom for 2 hours every night, I really feel like that cuts into our personal time. I don't want to step in between you and your mom, of course, but do you think that maybe blah, 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 blah? Right? And so make sure you spin it back because I want to show up for you. This isn't a beat up fest. Right? I want to show up for you as well. And so that's absolutely how I would position it. But based on what you shared and the little time that we spent together, I would have this conversation, reposition it a few more times before letting it go.
Okay. That's fair. It's communication. The conversation, I keep saying I want communication, and that's a level of communication. I hope that it's a two-way, communication, but I like that. Yeah. I can do that.
And I do think that it's fair when you mention, people have said to you, guys, if it's true, they do tend to not be as expressive. And that's all of our faults, right? That's mommy and daddy's fault when he said big boys don't cry, suck it up, man up, get some balls, right? Online now, there's a lot of conversation when men are expressive. We're telling them that they're being sassy, that that they don't have a right to express themselves. And so men are not put in a position to be expressive. And then the older the gentlemen are, the more traditional they tend to be. So that's something that you have to work on. And again, if we're seeing all the other things are in alignment, then this is something that I would continue to work on for the next, we're going to give it to like Augusty, right? That's about 8-9 months out, right? And then let's see if there is some significant gains, even if it's not 100% to where you want. But if you can say, you know what, in all fairness, he definitely has done a significantly better job. If he's done a significantly better job from December to August, then imagine August 2024 to August 2025. He's going to be a chatterbox by the time you're done with him. Right? And it also shows how much care he has for you, that he's showing up for you in a way that he's never shown up before, that he's never been socialized to show up, that his father never did, and his father's father never. That's that New York father. His father's father never did, right? So you have to give him kudos for that. Yes. So let's revisit in August. Okay. Come back down to the stew.
I like Augustine.
You're right, Augustine. Right.
I'll update you all.
And then let us know
Did
how
I say
that
that
goes.
New York enough? You all. Do you all? No.
That was a little Texas.
Okay.
But we'll take it.
I tried.
So, Carla, can you share with us, how can we connect with you? How can we reach out to you? Tell us all the things.
Okay. You can definitely follow me on Instagram. It's where I live the most. I am on Facebook, but Instagram is really the best way to find me. You can find me at Carla D Brown _. That's Carla with a C. D Brown _. No E at the end of Brown. It's just brown, just like the color. I have a website for my podcast, supportthedoperadio.com.
You gotta tell us more.
Check. Okay, so Support the Dope Radio, since you asked. It's a music interview, like Q&A, kind of like what we're doing right now, but I interview. Initially, I interviewed music artists. Now in this season, I'm in season 6, thank God. And I'm interviewing people behind the scenes, producers, songwriters, vocal arrangers. This season, we had Warren Campbell come through the podcast interview. We had Adam Blackstone. So people in the behind the scenes they're pretty notable, but if you're not paying attention, you kind of don't really know them. You know the artist. You know Beyonce, but do you know who wrote her songs? Right. Do you know who was the creative director behind her video or her tour? So I'm interviewing those people. So you can find me anywhere you listen to your podcasts, or supportthedoperadio.com. Please follow me, support it, share it. Hit me up on Instagram. I will hit you back.
Well, thank you, Carla. You have been an amazing guest, and I hope that the gems that have been dropped today have been useful for you.
They have. I appreciate you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Of course. And to the larger audience, our closing connection conversation, we need to talk more. So even those who communicate the best sometimes struggle with how to get others to do the same. So make sure that you're giving people a second, third, fourth chance to kind of show up in the way that you desire. We're not talking about disrespect. We're not talking about anything outrageous. But if there are certain things that are just super key to you, you want to make sure that you're communicating that to them and then give them some grace to grow and change. This has been another episode of The Single Season. I am your host, Alison Wellington. If you would like to be a guest on the show, please make sure that you go to alignwithallison.com. And if you'd like a private session, same thing, alignwithallison.com. Peace.